Hello, my name's Les Miller. Thanks for joining us on this Visio Divina of the Census at Bethlehem. This is part of the St. Monica Institute of the Archdiocese of Toronto series on praying with art during Advent. We are into the fourth of 5 paintings in which we follow Mary and Joseph through Advent. If you wish to revisit any of the previous paintings, go to my website, lesmiller.ca. Just to note, our initial consideration of the painting is going to take longer than normal. That's because it's so detailed and requires close-ups of many of the different facets of this wonderful work. To recap, Visio Divina is a relatively new term for an ancient practice of praying with art. This process is approximately based on Lectio Divina, or divine reading, of sacred scripture. It follows a pattern from Lectio, or reading, to Meditatio, meditation, to Oratio, prayer, to Contemplatio, contemplation. Visio Divina also follows this pattern, but adds the visual as one of the readings in the Lectio phase. We also insert a prayer of consideration between Meditatio and Contemplatio. The prayer of consideration adds layers of wisdom into the method. This wisdom is found both in questions and insights. As we prepare for this prayer with art, let's minimize any distractions and enter into a prayer space where we are attentive to sacred presence. At any point, we can ask ourselves, where is God present? Where is God present in this experience of Visio Divina? So focus now on your breathing. Gaze at the image. Let's spend a minute just taking in this painting, pondering its meaning, noting what you see and what you feel. Now, let's take a tour of this complex scene, starting in the top left corner. We see a scene from the harshest winter in years, the winter of 1565, in the part of Europe which is now Belgium and the Netherlands, the Low Countries. We see a large tree whose lower branches have been cut away. Behind the tree, we see the sun rising. We know that it's morning rather than sunset because of the alignment of the church. Given the northern latitude and winter solstice, the sun rises later in the morning. So it's probably after 9 a.m., hence all the activity in the painting. The church has a cross on the top of the steeple, and there are two figures by the church door. Most churches of this time have the entrance to the west and the altar to the east. We enter the western door and look to the altar, which is in the direction of the rising sun. The title of the painting gives us the date. It's Christmas Eve. A barge is frozen into the water. 3 laden figures cross the frozen lake. Most of the figures in this painting are active, except for this man with his back to us. He's looking at the 3 laden figures, but he also has a patch of white on his back where a snowball has hit him. At the top right of the painting, there's a ruined castle and a collection of buildings. We get the impression, however, that the castle is still inhabited. We also see about 20 wheels in this corner of the painting alone. They belong to carts and wagons. In contrast to the ruin, we have new construction of a building taking place. In a hollowed out tree, we see a pub. Like most pubs, it has a sign above that it looks like a swan. Behind the pub is a group of people warming themselves in front of a fire. In the building to the right is a group of men with pikes. So this looks like a military facility. In the bottom foreground, we can see a snowball fight in progress. Children playing on a frozen pond. 2 are spinning tops. Another is being pulled on a sled made from a 3-legged stool turned on its side. The hut is intriguing. It has a basket for a chimney and a cross on the roof above the door. A person emerging holding something in his hand that is typical of people suffering from leprosy. Clappers were used to keep others away. A crowd pushes up to a building. There's a pig being slaughtered in the foreground. A woman is catching the blood coming from it in a pan. Sheaves of rushes or wheat on the ground lie there with an axe on top of it. Hens poking at the snow. Barrels of ale on carts. On the building there's a red sign showing the double eagle symbol of the Habsburg Empire. Also, there's a wreath made of evergreens. Do you see the wheel at the center of the canvas? The design of the painting is far from the familiar triangular pattern that we've seen with other artworks. If anything, the shape is circular. Many of the details are on the margins. Around this central wheel, there's relatively little action. Apart from the portraits of peasant life in the 1550s, the main point's easily overlooked. We turn our attention to the figures in the bottom center. Here's the main event. It's easy to lose them in the busyness of this painting. A man with a saw over his shoulder is pointing ahead. He is leading a donkey and an ox toward the crowd. The ox is looking at us, or is it at the woman in the blue cape sitting on the donkey? Abide for a while in the beauty of this scene and notice the different ways in which the sacred is present. Let's read about this scene from the second chapter of Luke's Gospel. In those days, a decree went out from Emperor Augustus that all the world should be registered. This was the first registration and was taken while Quirinius was governor of Syria. All went to their own towns to be registered. Joseph also went from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to the city of David called Bethlehem, because he was descended from the house and family of David. He went to be registered with Mary, to whom he was engaged, and who was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for her to deliver the child, and she gave birth to her firstborn son, and wrapped him in bands of cloth, and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them in the inn. How does the art match the reading? Imagine yourself in the scene. Where are you standing? What are you doing? What are you seeing? What do you hear? What are you feeling? Pieter Brueghel the Elder was known for his portrayals of village life in what is now Belgium and the Netherlands. We met his son Jan Brueghel when we looked at the Sermon on the Mount, another canvas overloaded with figures and scenes within the large scene. The political situation was challenging in the winter of 1565. The country was under occupation by the Habsburg Empire centered in Spain. Adding to the hardship of the people was the harshest winter in years. Into this setting, over 1500 years out of chronological time, Mary and Joseph come for the census. But this is Kairos time rather than Chronos time. It's God's time, not calendar time. God's presence among us takes place in the eternal now. There are so many metaphors that this work suggests. Our lives are frozen into patterns of violence, toil, and busyness. Into that frozen landscape comes the Christ child. At first, it's difficult to see the Holy Family among the bustle of this winter scene. It's just as difficult to see the Christ child in our world today. Santa Claus can block the view sometimes. The pace of haste replaces the pace of grace. The noise of the season drowns out the cry of the newborn. The message of peace gets lost in war news. It acts as an incentive to see more deeply. In our world today, the Christ child comes unrecognized. Our Advent readings tell us, "Sleeper, awake, pay attention, a new dawn is coming." The painting also illustrates a common theme of this time, the Wheel of Fortune. We see a wheel right in the middle of the painting. There are echoes of the wheel throughout. The idea of the Wheel of Fortune predates this painting into the time of the ancient civilizations. Rose windows in cathedrals also evoke the Wheel of Fortune. So do the signs of the zodiac. Just one manifestation of how fate governs our life. Fortune is seen to be fickle, but generally followed certain patterns. In the top left is called Regnable, I will reign. The new buildings and people mostly heading to the center. Regno, I reign. The castle, the military with pikes, the new construction. Regnavi, I reigned. The downtrodden, such as the leper. And sum sine regno, I have no kingdom. The crowd reporting to the Habsburg authorities mostly the lowly, humble state of Christ. At this point, he breaks into the cycle of fate, the Wheel of Fortune, to eventually announce the reign of God. Regnable becomes the time of John the Baptist. Regno is a proclamation of the kingdom. Regnavi is a passion and rejection of Christ. And sum sine regno is the crucifixion, which leads to a new regnable in the resurrection and ascension, regno. This ongoing cycle of creation, reign, sin, and exile, leading to a new cycle of creation, reign, sin, and exile, has been part of the story of Christ's ancestors. It is his story, and it is also our story. There's also a political dimension to this work. If we look closely at the end, we can see that what is happening isn't name-taking for a census, but a taxation collection. The woman in green clothing is putting money in the hand of the man who is writing in a ledger. He has the fur-lined coat. By the tree, a soldier with a pike is present to maintain order. It's still an administrative power play by the Habsburg Empire. Note the symbol of the Habsburg hanging above them. It's a double-headed eagle, the symbol of both the Roman Empire and the Holy Roman Empire. The Roman Empire that was persecuting Palestine in the time of Jesus is now the new Holy Roman Empire, the Habsburg Empire, persecuting the Low Countries in 1565. A pig is being slaughtered. The blood is directed into a pan to be deposited into the copper pot. Perhaps this is an allusion to the Habsburgs bleeding the local people dry. So the time of the Nativity has been changed to 1565, and the reason for the journey to Bethlehem by the North Sea has also been changed. Another reason why we know that this is not Palestine of 2,000 years ago. The Jewish people would have had nothing to do with pigs. Into a frozen world, trapped by fortune's ever-turning wheel, trapped by Habsburg's oppression, trapped by poverty, trapped by violence, there's a new dawn, arriving on a donkey in the midst of our material and spiritual poverty. Once again, let's abide in the beauty of this scene. What glimmers of the sacred are you seeing both in the art and the process of Visio Divina? What is God teaching you through this Visio Divina? I'd invite you to thank God for the deeper understandings and notions about how to bring this experience into your daily life. God bless.